Good morning. Welcome in. It is Sports by the Book. A new week begins here. I'm Jeff Parles. Good morning, Alex White.
Good morning. Big day today, big week coming up here.
Nearing the end of May. We're almost on the back half of May, as ridiculous as that is. Deeper into the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs. A few of those series got a little more interesting over the last few days. To put it very lightly, WNBA gets going today. Alex will have thoughts on that around 8:50. So stay tuned to the end if you want Alex's WNBA thoughts. And, of course, our good friend Steve Jones Jr. joins us at 9:35 this morning. What time zone is even 8:35 right now? Right? Alaska, I guess just Alaska, right? 9:35 out here in the Pacific time zone. Steve Jones Jr. will join us here this morning. All right, Alex, let's get to it. Starting five, whoosh it across the screen. Well, it's not, yeah, there's the whoosh. Look at that fancy whoosh at the end. Number one is Game 5 at Madison Square Garden tonight. The battered New York Knicks host the Indiana Pacers. Pacers are now favored in the series without home court. Jalen Brunson's not 100%. Knicks are now plus 130 to win the series. They're 2-point favorites tonight with a total of 217, Alex.
So that is the most interesting part here, right? The series price completely flipped. Knicks now plus 130 if you like them to win the best of three. Another Game 5 in the association. The Denver Nuggets host the Timberwolves after winning 2 straight in Minnesota to even up the series. Nuggets, if you like them tonight, you have to lay 4.5 total on that one, Jeff. 206.
It's been road sweet road in that series. I don't think it's going to be road sweet road tonight. Let's just go with that. We'll get into that pick in about 10 minutes from now. The Panthers got smoked in Game 1. They've been the ones smoking Boston since then. They go for the gentleman's sweep. Tonight at home, they're big favorites. Right now, the Florida Panthers are $2 favorites, minus 200 plus 175 total, 5.5 as the Panthers look to be the first team to make it into the conference finals.
Florida looks very good right now. Shocking to see Boston lose 2 at home, but that is where we sit. And Game 4 in NHL, Connor McDavid and the Oilers down 2-1 to the Canucks, even without their starting goalie on their third-string goalie. The Canucks are Oilers still a big favorite, though. You have to lay 210 if you like them to win at home. Total in that one, 6.5, and it has been all overs in that series.
Well, I could tell you this. We do know there will be one change in that series tonight. Stuart Skinner to the bench officially after really just being awful in the first 3 games of this series. He is getting benched tonight. The starter will be Calvin Pickard, who came in relief in Game 3, only stopped the 3 shots he saw. Vancouver up 2-1. There was some hope that Demko would be back for this game. Seems unlikely with the series lead. It looked like they'll go with Sealovs yet again in that one. And then number 5, the WNBA returns. Again, a 40-game season for the second time after adding 6 games a year ago. Caitlin Clark makes her WNBA debut officially. There are props behind us for Clark. 4 games tonight, including the Las Vegas Aces defending their championship for the second consecutive year, looking for a three-peat, and they're big favorites tonight to kick off the WNBA season against the Mercury. All the way to 16.5. We had a 16.5 on opening night. I know Brittany Griner broke her toe, so she's out, but still pretty wild to see a number that big on opening night, Alex.
We'll see a lot of those big numbers with the Aces, as we did last year, and you brought it up. It's been the Aces and then the Liberty for the last couple years, but I'm excited. As Jeff mentioned, here at 9:50, we're going to give all our WNBA thoughts and maybe some sleepers.
Be mostly Alex's plays for the season. I only have one thing that I'm really looking at. I know you have multiple things for the whole season. And then Ann, are we allowed to make it a 6 today? Sixth body off the bench. Yes. For later today, 3:00 Pacific time, our PGA Championship preview. Barry Phillips is back. CJ Schmidt, who we saw for the Masters, will join him this afternoon live on the stream at 3. If you want your preview for the PGA Championship this week at Valhalla in Louisville, Kentucky. Kentucky, the main universe of the sports landscape over the last few weeks. We have that as well. And also, it's Preakness week, right? Preakness is on Saturday? Yeah. Mystic Dan will look to go 2 for 2 and set up what would be a chance for a Triple Crown winner in Saratoga this year for the Belmont, but he is not the favorite. Baffert's horse, who I can't remember the name, is the favorite this week. We'll have all to talk about that. Race Day Las Vegas, Wednesday through Sunday, as always, 7 in the morning.
See, I said a big week coming up, and you looked a little surprised, and those are two of the main events I was thinking of.
Well, the Preakness, again, at Pimlico. Someone who knows horse racing better than me. When are they going to just redo Pimlico? And that place has been falling apart for about 20 years. As long as I've been cogent, it's been pretty wild. They haven't moved it out, or at least haven't just rebuilt that there in Baltimore. It's falling apart. But Mystic Dan going for 2 for 2 right now at the Preakness, the 149th version of the Preakness, 150 a year from now. All right, Alex, let's dive into all this. We get our good friend Steve Jones in about half hour from now. We'll cover all we can until we get to our guy, Steve. Let's start in the NBA tonight. We'll get our thoughts right here. The Knicks and the Pacers. Game 5, Alex. Injuries. The stamina questions for the Knicks. They get annihilated in Game 4. Jalen Brunson is clearly nowhere near 100%. The Knicks are 2-point favorites tonight at home. Total's 217. You can actually, that money line, if that money line straddles what we're at right now, minus 120 on the Knicks, I'd much rather have that than laying 2. I can tell you that right now. And the Knicks are an underdog in the series with home court at plus 130. Alex, I'll give you the floor first here. I'm just curious your thoughts here because there's injury concerns as we've known. There's stamina. There's how much gas is left in the tank concerns for the Knicks at this point.
I don't want to overreact to Game 4. It was kind of flip-flopped, and we anticipated the Pacers really winning big in one of those home games. I thought it would be Game 3, but instead it was Game 4. You could tell that the Knicks were just worn out and tired and kind of just gave up there very early in Game 4. So I do think we're going to get a better effort from them. This is a very tough team, and that place is going to be electric. So I think they're going to be okay and get this first win. So that leans me to that series price, which is very tempting with that plus money, plus 130 to close it out here. But best bet for me in this game is the under 217. I think that is the way the Knicks have to play this game. They have to play slow, walk the ball up. They cannot try and run with the Pacers here.
So I'm going to just stick to my guns from what I've said this whole series. I still think this is going to be the home team go 7-0. They're 4-0 right now in this series. The Knicks had the Pacers had a good chance in Game 1 to steal. Couldn't do it. Leading by 10 at halftime in Game 2. Couldn't do it. Knicks had to lead late in Game 3, and then Nebhard threw in that wild shot from 35 feet at the end of the shot clock to give Indiana the win in that Game 4. Look, that was one other thing I think that was missed, and a part of it, and I was guilty of this too, that turnaround, where that game ended late on Friday night, and then they had to turn around and play early on Sunday. Way less than a 48-hour turnaround for a team that's really down at this point to 6.5 players, Alex. You're not winning that game. And now, the way this series breaks down here, obviously regular, just a day off plus off rest for this one. Friday would be Game 6. Well, not would be. Will be Game 6. We just don't know what time yet. So 2 full days off. And then we're flipping around with a flight mixed in again for Game 7. So I would be very concerned about betting the Knicks in the series price because of the way the timing is, even though I would still say, all right, the home crowd could spur them on. They could get it done winning Game 7 and then get smacked by Boston in the East Final. But this is, I think I'd rather than take a series price. If I like the Knicks to win this series, I'd rather just money line tonight, hold off in Game 6, and then either, all right, if they won Game 5, I'll either just take my profit from winning Game 5 or roll it into Game 7. Do a little bit of a bizarro rollover more so than anything with the Knicks. I do like them tonight, though, Alex.
It is tough, and anybody who has been betting the NBA knows how tough it is. I mean, there's no real zigzag theory anymore. For all these series, it's just been one game at a time. So I understand where you stand with that one. And if it is minus 120 at home, I think that is a very good price on them.
Props tonight, Alex? Were there any players you were looking to attack here? Of course, Jalen Brunson, after the streak of 4 straight 40-point games, has gone under all 3 games in his point total. Tonight, if you're looking at Jalen Brunson point total, right now we're sitting at 33.5, so it's really – that market's really calmed, mostly because of the injury to his foot. But is there any other player you'd potentially look at tonight?
Where's DiVincenzo?
Dante's at 22.5.
22.5. Because I do think it's going to take more than just Jalen Brunson here, right? We need Hart, DiVincenzo to step up and really make some shots, especially late in the game.
In game 4, part of this was a blowout. The 10 starters in the game, Alex, only one starter went over their point total in the game. That was Precious Achiuwa. That was it. Everyone else went under for the other 9 starters in game 4. There were a lot of factors that played into that. Blowout. Neither starter saw the floor the last 12 minutes, 15 minutes of the game. But something to keep in mind. I would say that a regression to the mean where we were going to see a few more overs potentially in these games. Also, these 2 games in New York, now maybe a little different with the injuries, have gone way over the total.
Correct.
In the first 2 games of the series. I want to keep it in the East before we get to the later game tonight. Is there anything we can take it all from this Boston series against Cleveland, Alex? I think the answer is just a flat-out no. There's no number behind us right now on the series price. If you insist on betting a series price on Boston, or if you think Cleveland will do the impossible without Donovan Mitchell, more likely than not, the rest of the way, the best number you can get on Boston is minus 42,500. There you go. That's good. 42,500 minus. And then the Cavs, the best number out there is 100-1. Save your money on both accounts. The Boston's going to win game 5, more likely than not at home, Alex, and do the exact same thing they did against Miami. But can you take anything from this series? I can't at all.
No, I can't either. And I think that last night with the Cavs covering, we've talked about it a lot on this show, where if a star player is out, everybody else can really step up for a game or 2. And we saw that with Cleveland yesterday. I think the most intriguing bet now, Jeff, and tell me your thoughts, Boston is a big favorite now to win it all. I don't know if this team is built for that because of what we've seen in these early series, and maybe I'm taking too much away from that, but I think they're going to have some tough matchups coming up, and depending on if it's the Nuggets or the Timberwolves, I think they would definitely give them a run for their money to win it all.
Well, I would say this. I think part of the reason right now you're seeing about minus 135, minus 140 is I think the shortest number out there on Boston to win the whole thing. When you add in the, hey, look at what the number is right now to win the series. I mean, it's an asinine number. Plus, they're either going to play the Knicks, who are a battered lack of depth. I don't want to call them a mess because that's not fair, but they're really just horribly impacted by everything that's gone on. Or the Pacers, who yes, would be in an Eastern Conference final, but this is a very, very young team for Indiana. Right now, the Knicks are hovering around 30-1 in some books, and the Pacers are hovering around 50-1 in some books. So they're just such a huge favorite to come out of the East. And you look, Denver's plus 370 to win the title right now. Now, yes, I understand you could have had 14-1 when they're in the 2-0 hole against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think they've salvaged that series now. I think they're going to win tonight. I don't know if they'll win game 6, but they're not blowing a game 7 at home. And they're going to be favored against the winner of Dallas, Oklahoma City, which we'll get to in a few moments. Maybe Denver's the bet now. Maybe. Yes, you missed it 4 days ago. You could have had a huge number. But 4 days ago, I think a lot of us also thought that Minnesota was going to win that series in 5 or 4 games at this rate, Alex.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 4 days ago, it looked like the Nuggets didn't have an answer. But we did talk about the time off in between and the travel, and Denver really put it together. They are the defending champs for a reason. So I would say that is probably the best bet.
Well, they're the defending champs with the best player in the league. That's a pretty good combination of things. For what it's worth, I think that assuming Boston does wrap things tomorrow night, and it's I would say at this point, the Knicks get through. I mean, this could be one of the one of the easier runs you've ever seen out of from a 1 seed to get to a final, which would then actually lead me to what you're saying would be I'd very happily take the West representative in the final against Boston, where it'll be tested for really the first time in this entire postseason. The other game last night, I'll be honest with you, I'm guilty of this. I thought this game was over going to the fourth quarter. Dallas was fully in command. They were fully in command at halftime, but Oklahoma City outscores the Mavs in the second half, 57-42. They win by 4. And now we're back into a best-of-3 series where I think this is just another one of these series, Alex, like that first series against the Clippers, where Dallas's wide variance makes this a very difficult series to figure.
Yes.
Because we've seen the very good from Dallas in this series, and we've seen some just whatever the heck that was in the second half last night. And Thunder are correctly a -150 favorite with home court the rest of the way. But if you made the argument for Dallas, I'd have to listen and probably say, you know what, that's a pretty good argument because when they've been at their best in this series, that's been better than Oklahoma City at their best in this series.
It's just really tough. And you brought it up the other day. You put Luka in our starting 5, still injured. And I was like, he just played a fantastic game. But clearly he is not 100%. So without him being 100% and Kyrie really hasn't done much in this series, I do think it's going to be really tough for Dallas. The Thunder, great comeback last night, held the Mavs to 15 in the third quarter. And really the big story was Dallas missing so many free throws in that one. But yeah, SGA and his team, I mean, really SGA stepped up and was fantastic in that second half.
It would be, even with everything I've said, if we're making a series price bet, I'd only bet Dallas. It's all going to be dependent on this point. I really do think the winner of Game 5 wins this series. Because if Oklahoma City wins, all right, home serve in Game 7 at home, I think they will. If Dallas does what they did against the Clippers, remember, they went on the road, won Game 5 by 30, and then finished it off in Big D 2 days later. I think that's a pretty similar thing that could happen in this one. Winner of tomorrow night's game. We'll ask Steve his thoughts a little bit later, and we'll give our full thoughts on the show tomorrow. Right now, Oklahoma City 4.5, which is a market high. The rest of the market sitting at 4. All right, to the doozy tonight. Denver back home. They've lost the first 2 games at home in this series, as we highly profile know, Alex. They're 4.5 tonight. 206.5 behind us on the total. Alex, I'm staying away from this game. Completely staying away. Now, in-game scenarios is the way to play this game tonight. I'm very curious to see how this game starts. That total feels a little low going back to Denver. Now, I understand in this series, if you look at it, obviously, Game 4 was an easy over. But other than that, it's hovering around this number. You had 205 in Game 1. You had 206 in game 2, and you had 207 in Game 3. So it's been hovering right at that number for 3 of the 4 games. But I think this pace is closer to what we saw in Game 4, because even though the way the pace was in the first 3 games, it was pretty slow for Denver games. I think the pace comes back up here in Game 5. It would be a small lean to the over right now, but I want to wait in game to see how this game starts before even getting on and over. I'd like to be in a little bit of a lower number before going with that.
Very interesting. So you noticed the same type of trends that I did, because the first 2 games did go under the total, second 2 went over, and it's Denver that has been pushing the pace more, which does make sense in the sense that Minnesota was the best defense all year long. The best bet that I found here, because I'm with you, it's really tough, and I wanted to pass on this one, but I did see Minnesota Timberwolves team total at 100.5.
Okay.
I think that's good to go over, because they have gone over that in 3 of the 4 games, and it's really just a matter of if Denver is going to outscore them. So we saw 106 in the first 2, and then Denver held them to 90 in Game 3, and then 107 in Game 4. So if you are in that ballpark that it's going to be a faster pace and more like game 4. I do like the Timberwolves over that team total. No team has held them to under 100 since April 5th as well.
Nuggets, again, 4.5-point favorites tonight, 206.5. Series price, Flipperoonie again, -170 behind us on Denver, which is the best price available, plus 150 on Minnesota, which you can do better on Minnesota and other shops because the best price on Denver is behind us. So if you like Minnesota, shop around. If you like the Nuggets, best price is behind us right now in this best of 3 years. This series is not at a 2.
Interesting, last night both dogs did cover.
Yep.
Today I am leaning a little bit to both home teams at least winning outright.
Yeah, Cavs cover every number, even without Donovan Mitchell last night, losing by 7. Again, it was relatively late in the game that we figured that we found out Mitchell wasn't going to play in that one. But it is, again, that series is done, and they would be beyond the pale at this point. I mean, Cleveland is 100-1 in most shops that have the numbers up right now. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, we go to the ice. Things getting interesting with the Rangers and the Canes all of a sudden, and an important game 4 tonight north of the border. We break all that down next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rockin' dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grandview Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grandview Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grandview Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
On a shot here. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Happy to be with you. Steve Jones will join us in about 10 minutes from now, going over his thoughts on what we saw in the association. We went through ours to open the show today. Now we go to the ice. And before we get to the 2 games tonight, the 2 games last night, starting at Madison Square Garden, the Rangers, a shorthanded goal. But Carolina's power play had been an abomination in this series. But a shorthanded goal had the Rangers with a 1-0 lead going to the 3rd period. And then the Carolina Hurricanes played their best period of the postseason by a wide margin. 4 unanswered, a 4-1 win, an unnecessary sweat if you had the under in that game, by the way.
Yes.
The Canes, down at 3-0, have won 2 straight and have forced the Game 6 back in Raleigh tomorrow night. That's actually Thursday night, so 2 days off for both of these teams. Alex, we're down to plus 195 on Carolina behind us. Could have had north of $8 2 games ago. But we've only seen this 4 times in NHL history, where a team was in a 3-0 hole and they came out and won the series. Carolina's more than equipped to do it. And if this thing gets, I think Carolina can win game 6 now. This thing gets to a game 7, all bets are off here at this point.
It's tough, Jeff. It really is. I mean, we did say if there's a team that can do it and come back from this, the Carolina Hurricanes are made for this. But you're right. It's been all about their special teams. They have been terrible against the Rangers, and now they've started to figure some things out. They've also kind of figured Shesterkin out a little bit and found his weaknesses. So I think we're having a series. I think we're going to game 7.
Minus 160 behind us for Thursday for Carolina again, trying to just become the 5th team in Stanley Cup playoff history in order to come back from a 3-0 hole. All right, the other game last night, Dallas, Colorado. I think Colorado might be done here. They look like a team that had the life sucked out of them. Nichushkin suspended
Yes.
again, so his season is done. Dallas looks to wrap things tomorrow night in the Lone Star State. This was this very easily could have been a sweep with how Dallas has looked in the series. Minus 135 behind us to lock this thing up tomorrow night, Alex.
You and I both had Dallas coming out of the West. We knew this team was this good. They've been this good all year. And this is more of the Colorado team that I anticipated coming into the playoffs. Now we're starting to see their weaknesses, and they were a mess yesterday. So they're really struggling against this very defensive-minded Stars team. And I think this series is over.
Dallas, if you want to just lay a big price, minus 1,200 to win the series, plus 750 on the Avs, who just, again, look like the life had been sucked out of them last night. But look, this thing can flip on a dime. But the bigger problem is the better goaltender's also wearing green in this series.
Yeah, but you can't say that. I mean, what's his name?
Gorgiev?
Gorgiev.
Yeah.
He was pretty good. He kept them in the game that whole first period, and then things kind of got out of hand. But he was not the worst player in that game yesterday.
No.
And I don't want to completely count the Avs out because they do have a lot of star power there, so they could still steal another game.
Yeah.
I just think ultimately the Stars.
Yeah, just too solid on the back end when it's all said and done. And for Dallas, again, they got to be loving what's going on in the series between Vancouver and Edmonton right now. We'll get to that game in a second because we'll get to Boston first. The Panthers of Florida look to wrap it up tonight in Sunrise. They're $2 favorites, 5.5 the total here, Alex. And no reason to think Florida doesn't end this thing tonight, where Boston, after game 1, has looked pretty awful in this series.
Well, Boston did have a lead in game 4, and then Florida came back and scored 2 late. So if I were to bet this, I would bet Boston first period. I think you could find some plus 148 out there. So I do think it'll be a tight game to start, at least the first few periods. I mean, and Boston is more than capable of winning this game. They won in game 1, but Florida has looked very good in their special teams and very fast. And I think that's been the biggest problem. The Bruins haven't really been able to keep up with them. They look slow.
And then the other one tonight. No more Skinner for the Oilers. He hits the bench after, quite frankly, just 3 really, really bad efforts in a row from really him in the back line from Edmonton. They will start the second string goalie, Calvin Pickard, tonight. And Alex, they're $2 favorites at home, Edmonton. Vancouver looks like they're going to be going with Sealovs yet again. Draisaitl after the game saying, hey, that wasn't goaltending, that was the post for some of the stuff from Sealovs in game 3. Look, this just screams classic Edmonton so far through 3 games, where they really should be up 3-0 in this series with the way this has played out.
I don't want to discredit Vancouver too much because their defensemen have been phenomenal. I mean, you said it to begin the series. Maybe they can annoy them enough, and they've done this. And this isn't just a fluke. I mean, this team has been really good all year. They were the top of the Western Conference at one point in the regular season. So defensively, they have been fantastic. I do think the Oilers win this one at home, and we do have somebody out. Carson Soucy is out after that.
Suspended, yep.
After that cross-check to McDavid. So I think this is going to be fireworks to start, I like over 1.5 in the first period. You do have to lay minus 140 in that one. But if you made me play a side, even at that big price, I would lay it with the Oilers.
The Oilers, again, to win this series, down 2-1, currently minus 105. So small underdog in this series right now. All right, we'll take a quick break. We get back. We're going to go to Back to Hoops. Steve Jones Jr. going to join us next, breaking it down. We got 2 intriguing Game 5s and much more to get to when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza, plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book, over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
Welcome back in. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's alongside. And now joining us, Steve Jones Jr. with us right now, talking some NBA playoffs. Steve, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me. Good morning. I'm excited to talk about some hoops with y'all.
Absolutely. Of course, Steve, the podcast, The Dunker Spot, where you can find Steve's show throughout the NBA postseason. Let's go to tonight. The Knicks. It's they are down to just a few bodies at this point with the injury to OG Anunoby, which really a humongous deal. We've seen it. We saw it in the 2 games in Indiana. Tonight, Steve, the Knicks are now 2-point favorites, 217. I'll just ask you, when we're now, this is a best of 3. The Knicks have both games at home. I have 2 games at home left of these 3 games, I should say. But when you're down, we talked about it even in the Philly series. Now that you're down even further bodies and you're pushing Alec Burks back into the rotation when he hadn't played at all in the first series, Achua has to play even more minutes than he was already playing with the injuries. Just how much more can this Knicks team take at this rate? And also, of course, Jalen Brunson's not 100%.
Jalen Brunson being banged up is one thing. It's been tough for him to kind of find his footing, no pun intended, especially in that last game. But I believe in his ability to still get to his spots, especially when he first went down. He's able to get it done. But I think it's tough. It's tough for the Knicks because, 1, you're running out of bodies. And 2, this specific matchup makes it very hard to deal with that because the Indiana Pacers are going to run. And they're finding ways to make the Knicks work for their offense. So if you're the Knicks, you've got to find a way to get this win tonight. You've got to find a way to control the tempo and score and make sure Indiana take it out the net and then give yourself a chance to play defense on the other end. But I think Indiana has worked, but those games were won at home. They've got to now take what they found and try and find it in the Garden. But if you're the Knicks, you just have to find a way to unlock Jalen Brunson again, find him some different matchups where he can attack and really just work to set your defense. It can't be as easy as it was in Game 4 for Indiana.
Steve, are you in the same ballpark as Jeff? Because he does believe that the home team will win and will go to Game 7s with these two. And he talked about it being best of 3 now. And if we are in that ballpark, is it worth taking this plus 130 with the Knicks to win this series?
Well, I mean, it depends on if they win tonight. Obviously, I'm just joking. But I would say the Knicks, with their style of play, when they are scoring in this series, they have found a way to make Indiana uncomfortable in the half court. And they have Jalen Brunson. And while the Pacers have worked to try and defend him, they don't have the same level of defenders that the Sixers did. So if Brunson can stay at least a certain amount of health, he can find his spots and take a close game. In my mind, I keep thinking about that Andrew Nembhard step back and how big that was. So I would understand seeing, hey, the Knicks, if they get this one in Game 5, the emotion of the Garden, maybe they can go get one in Game 6. Maybe in an elimination game, things can tighten up, things can get different. They have the advantage, and a Game 7 in the Garden doesn't sound the most fun if you're the Pacers.
It definitely does not. And the one thing that I will bring up, though, Steve, and I brought this up earlier, and I'm just curious your thoughts. We saw it with Game 3 to Game 4. The way the schedule breaks, of course, Friday night game in Indianapolis, early tip on Sunday, Knicks looked like they had nothing left in the tank. The way the series breaks now, Game 6 is Friday night. Game 7 is right now slotted for that 3:30 Eastern slot on Sunday. So that's the one real hesitation I have left at this point of, hey, if this thing does go to distance, it's a short turnaround. Oh, and by the way, there's a flight mixed in this go around as opposed to last time where it was out. They're all right, chilling in their hotel rooms, getting themselves ready. Oh, we got to fly back to New York after game 6.
I think that's a fair point. The quick turnaround really showcased itself, as you stated. But I think the thing you mentioned, if the Knicks get a win and they have some extra time to rest, that makes that Game 6 very interesting if you're the Indiana Pacers. So I would keep an eye on that. Because if the Knicks win, they can go all out to just go home in general. That gives you a little bit extra motivation.
Let's go to the game in the West here, Steve. So it's been all road teams in this one, right? The Nuggets now host the Timberwolves again at home. It looks like they figured some things out, though, going to Minnesota and taking 2. Pretty big favorite, though, 4.5 here at home. Do you think Denver wins 3 in a row?
I think Denver has found their way. Nikola Jokic has been incredible. Once they went down 2-0, he has really made every play, made every shot, made it tough on Rudy Gobert. His help defense hasn't had the same impact. He's been reading the Minnesota defense and just dissecting them the whole time. Jamal Murray's played a lot better. And Denver's defense has found a way to impact not Anthony Edwards because he is cooking this series, but Karl-Anthony Towns, Mike Conley, Naz Reid. We're going to take those guys away, make it tough on them. And that's kind of their path to victory. So Minnesota is not down and out, but a Denver crowd that has not seen a home win in this series, just saw their team win 2 on the road, going to be very excited. You got Jokic playing at this high level. You got Jamal Murray back in action and scoring. Aaron Gordon's making threes. When those two play this well and they are playing at such a high level offensively, it makes it hard. Your defense, you don't feel as comfortable defending them and their actions, and you start to rotate. And that was what Minnesota had found in the first 2 games. They made it to where we feel confident with what we're doing defensively. Denver flipping that makes it impactful. So it's going to be on Minnesota to try and get them back in that. But it's tough to see where Denver's going to slow down now that they have some answers.
Steve, just going back to last week when this was 2-0 going to Minnesota. Hey, the Timberwolves figured them out. The Nuggets, the last year's run was a fluke. All that nonsense was out there. But just when you're dealing with a team that won the title last year, and this Minnesota team, look, they were in the playoffs last year, but it was a play-in game, and it was one round where Denver, of course, beat them up. Just when we're dealing with this type of series, especially now that we're back to 2-2, how hard is it for now the young team, the team with the less playoff experience, to get off the mat like Denver already has in this series?
I think the Denver Nuggets have a quality that the Spurs had, that the Warriors had, that those great teams had, where you have to beat them. Like, you have to take them out. You have to do it over and over and over again. I think for Minnesota, there is a pathway for them. They have to work defensively to try and slow Denver down. To get back off the mat, you have to keep your confidence. And the one thing I will say about Minnesota all year long, they've had an identity. They've worked hard defensively. Anthony Edwards has been ready at every step of the way in the playoffs, including the series with his scoring. So they believe in themselves. They have a belief that they can beat this team. They want this matchup. That was the number one thing that I took away from the first two games. They want to beat Denver, and that has its value. Karl-Anthony Towns should bounce back. So for a young team in this scenario, it's just about getting back to believing in who you are, which Minnesota does, and just doing a better job defensively, staying confident and being ready for the moment. And you just have to deliver another blow. You got to remind Denver, hey, that was great, those two games, but we can still defend. We can still score. We can still keep pressure on you. So I would pay attention to see if Minnesota is able to drive the basketball and win one in that hostile environment.
One more on this series here, Steve, because I know you do such a good job and you break it down. You look at the individual matchups. You keep saying Anthony Edwards can't do it by himself. So who on Minnesota do you like to step up and have a big game, depending on their matchup from the Nuggets?
I would keep an eye on Mike Conley. I think he will have a bigger night, but to me, it's Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns has to have a better night against Aaron Gordon. With Denver being able to throw switches at him, he's got to be able to attack smaller defenders and make that tough. When he has it going and he's able to beat Gordon on the drive, he's able to post smaller guys, he plays at the 5, he can pick and pop. That adds such a better element for the Minnesota offense. And now you have Anthony Edwards going, you have Cat going. That makes it tougher to sustain defensively if you're Denver. So I think the big one is Karl-Anthony Towns getting back to the way he played in the first two games of the series, and that would help settle the Minnesota offense a little bit more.
Steve Jones Jr. with us right now. Steve, let's go to the other Eastern Conference series, and let's just be blunt here. Can we take anything away from what Boston has done these first two rounds of the playoffs? Or is it, hey, they were this dominant regular season team, and they saw two teams that they were much better than, and they handled their business like the number one overall seed should?
I think the word you said, handle business, is probably the key. I think the one thing you would take away is Boston handling a level of adversity, because in both of these series, they did lose game 2 at home. And so having to go on the road and take the series back, and that's impressive. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. I think it's Boston's understanding of who they are as a team, their ability to hold strong with their defense despite a team throwing a challenge at them, whether it was Cleveland with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland having a really good game too, or when Miami hit all the threes in the world. Responding to that, sticking with their identity, and then finding a way to put pressure right back on you. That's not easy in the playoffs. Jason Tatum shooting struggles, but he still had an impact. Jaylen Brown's been lights out the whole playoff run. Drew Holiday has shown up on both ends. So they have that identity and that makeup as a team that makes it tough to put them away. And I think for Boston, it's taking that lesson away, going through the adversity, and also understanding, okay, if it gets tight in a fourth quarter game, we need to be able to execute and finish our stuff off. So I think that's key for them.
A lot of talk about them not being able to go all the way, not having a one true superstar. We did see a lot from Jason Tatum last night. Wouldn't you say he was really driving to the basket? Any takeaways just from that particular game?
Tatum was aggressive. And the thing about Jason Tatum, sometimes the shot is not going to be there, but he's improved as a playmaker. He's going to make the right play, make the right read. With Boston, they're going to use him to tilt matchups and say, hey, you don't want to switch Darius Garland onto him. Let's open things up for our offense. He can catch it at the elbow when he gets a matchup and get to his shot. The drives were impactful. It just becomes really tough when Tatum has the shot and the drive going, because now he can make those where it's tough to defend them, and he can get to the free throw line. He can get paint touches. He can force help and make plays to get Boston humming. Once they get you in rotation, they're taking threes, they're getting a driving kick. It's tough. So when you combine him with Jaylen Brown and the way that he's been driving the basketball and keeping pressure on teams, that is where you kind of get the identity. It's a totality. It's that plus our defense. We're going to find ways to keep making plays. You got to deal with us all game long.
Let's go to the last series on the board here, Steve. What do we do with this series now? We're tied at 2 with Oklahoma City and Dallas. That was as good of a second half as the Thunder could have drawn up. A little bit of help from Dallas, though, because they couldn't make a free throw at the end of the game. But here we are, 2-2. This really is a difficult handicap the rest of the way here with An Oklahoma City team, again, lacking experience, but rising to the occasion, winning a big road game to get the series knotted. And Dallas, who, yes, they were in the West Final 2 years ago, but it's a relatively different group other than Luka, obviously.
This is a fun one because Dallas, surprisingly, despite Kyrie and Luka, was taking this series with their defense. They were switching. They were putting Oklahoma City in tough positions. Oklahoma City was playing slower. I think the big thing, if you're in Oklahoma City, you win a game on the road shooting 38%. You found a way to gut one out. Now you're going back home. Do you now feel more comfortable against Dallas? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander able to make a whole bunch of shots no matter what Dallas threw at them defensively. Can that carry you through this series? You know, the thing about the playoffs is you just have to figure out you have to solve a problem. And if you can solve that problem, that can get you to the next round. You still have to deal with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, who, despite not playing well, Dallas still had a chance to win that game. And so now if Luka's able to shoot well, that could ding you. If Kyrie's able to make plays and shoot, that can ding you. If Dallas keeps that defense up, you're in the same battle. So that's why I'm really fascinated. Which one of these teams is going to blink? Which one of these teams is going to crack over these next 3 games, and who's going to be able to take it? Because that was just a gutsy playoff basketball game last night.
Steve, who blinks? Who do you think blinks?
I think Dallas does. I think that OKC winning that type of game was good for them. And now I think that will give them the confidence going forward to find the gaps and play better. As good as Luka and Kyrie are, if PJ Washington stops hitting threes at any given point, because I feel like he's made 5 threes in 3 games in a row, that becomes difficult. So I think the totality of OKC, their style of play, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being able to punish Dallas, Jalen Williams hasn't played well. I think OKC takes it.
He's Steve Jones Jr. Again, you can get him on the Dunker Spot podcast. As always, new episode up for this morning, so make sure to check that out. Steve, always a pleasure. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely. Steve Jones Jr., everyone. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, with the WNBA season kicks off. Also, I have one baseball play that I have to bring up today as well. We'll get them both when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports,
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
comedy,
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
I am beautiful, and a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick,
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
and host Frank Nicotero.
When I look at the clock, I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in. Final segment for us, Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Alex, let's get our baseball plays out into the world here before we get to the WNBA. Today, I am on the New York Yankees on the road against the Minnesota Twins. I am against the market because this has been an aggressive mover to Minnesota. I just like the price where it is now. At minus 135, yeah, I didn't like the Yankees. Now minus 112, sign me up right now. Rodon is all over the place. We know he's very erratic. But Chris Paddock's really not any good either. And I expect the Yankees to be able to hit him tonight. So now that we're down to $1.12, this is a good price to hop in on New York on the road in Minneapolis.
I'm going to jump on a favorite as well. I am looking at the Seattle Mariners. I know Logan Gilbert didn't have the best outing, his last one, but before that, I mean, we were seeing really great stuff from him. He was tied for 4th with ERA. It's dropped a little bit here, but great strikeout to walk ratio as well. I think that's a good price if you can get that around that minus 150 for the Mariners.
Seattle at home playing better at home. A bad start early in the year at home. Now the Mariners in first place by themselves in the AL West, a game and a half clear of the Rangers. That AL Central, by the way, very compact with the Royals. Of course, we're going against 2 AL Central teams today. Cleveland's still a game clear, but they've also played 2 extra games over Minnesota at this point. Royals have been still one of the better stories in the American League at 25-18, even with last night's loss on the road in the Pacific Northwest. All right, Alex, I'll give you the floor here. Let's go to the W here. 4 games tonight to kick off the season. The Liberty are on the road in D.C. to take on the Mystics. Not much expected out of Washington this year. 11-point favorites for New York. Indiana, of course, Caitlin Clark, all of the hubbub. The Fever are 8-point underdogs tonight at Mohegan Sun to take on the Connecticut Sun in that one. And then Seattle is 8 against Minnesota, and the Vegas Aces. See, I'm so used to saying the Vegas Golden Knights that I almost right into it. Las Vegas Aces, the 2-time champions, are looking for the 3rd straight. They're big favorites tonight against the Mercury, 16.5. No Brittany Griner tonight with a broken toe for Phoenix, Alex.
So nothing for me in that first one. I do think that number is right here with Liberty laying 11, even on the road. You brought it up. Down year for Washington Mystics. That is what is expected anyways. The second game, the Fever and the Sun. I guess professionals are all over the Sun here because that was quite a move from 5.5. Now we're seeing 7s. Is that right?
No, it's 8 now.
It's 8. Okay.
8.
So, yes. So, I know a lot of people are betting Caitlin Clark in futures, and it's okay if you can find some good money. But, I mean, it's going to take some time, right? This Indiana team was 3rd worst last year. It's going to take some time for them to find their rhythm. Speaking of finding time to get their rhythm, Seattle Storm, I love them tonight. I laid the 7.5 with them at home. I am kind of jumping the gun here because I do think this is going to be 3rd or 4th best team in the league, and they were not great last year either. Let me find their record here, but 11-29 they finished last year. Great moves for them in the offseason, including NECA, who is no longer with the Sparks. I think that is going to help them a lot. I really like this roster, and the market says it as well. 24.5 is their win total up right now, which is the 3rd highest of any team. I think that is too high to bet over, though. Like you said, just 40 games for the W. But there are a couple other win totals that I did bet under 15.5 for the Phoenix Mercury. I do think they will be better, but without Brittany Griner for a while, she is definitely their best player. Sophie Cunningham is actually questionable as well. Haven't seen much of her preseason, so don't know when we get her back. So it'll be tough to come back if they do lose some. This is a team that won 1 road game last year, even with Brittany Griner. So I do like that one under. And then my other sleeper team this year is Atlanta Dream. So I went over in that one, over 18.5. Really like the moves that they made. I liked them last year as well. And now they added a better point guard with Jordan Canada. Also have Tina Charles, who had some problems with some other teams, but I think this will be a good landing spot for her. So Phoenix Mercury, I went under their win total. I went over with the Dream. I am still looking at adding a couple more, maybe Minnesota Lynx under 17.5. And I also don't think the Sun is going to be quite as good as they were.
Surprised Tina Charles is still playing. Tina Charles has been in the league now since 2014 or 2010. Been a long career for Tina Charles, of course, out of UConn. Just eyeballing this. Chris handed you props for tonight for Caitlin Clark. This is going to be, I think, a common thing across all Caitlin Clark games for a lot of books this year. What does Chris and company have right now in a point total for tonight?
Point total is 21.5.
Under.
If you like the under,
Under.
it is juiced minus 125.
I think this is going to be good early in the season. And look, could this blow up in my face? Of course it could. But I would imagine that the market is going to be set way too high on Clark and fever-related things. It's part of the reason that the Sharps have come in and hammered the Connecticut Sun tonight. And I think 8 is the right number. Now that number is where it should have been from the get-go. This team is going to be very much overvalued. And it's funny because last year, yeah, you mentioned they had the third worst record in the league. They went flying over their win total last year. Their win total was 8.5. So they were expected to be one of the worst teams in the worst team in the league last year. They weren't. Aaliyah Boston, who is seemingly getting forgotten in this. Aaliyah Boston's really, really good.
Yes.
And a great young player who was the number 1 overall pick in her own right a year ago. So I just think I'm perfectly good with going against Clark props, at least for the first week or so. Because on top of it, remember, this whole thing during the offseason where all these veteran players like taking pot shots and all that, this is kind of one of these where I think a lot of these veteran players are like, hey, we want to shut her down. We want to hold her down, hold her to 12, 13, 14 points. If Aaliyah Boston beats us, so be it. Aaliyah Boston already proven to be a legitimate WNBA player. Now, I expect Caitlin Clark to be awesome. I think it's a little wild. She's the third betting favorite in the MVP markets. I think it's a little wild. She's minus 750 to win Rookie of the Year. I don't even think that's a sure thing at this point. Because if Cameron Brink in LA has a big season and the Sparks, who have a lower win total as it is anyway, expect to be one of the weaker teams, if they overachieve, I don't think that's an insane thing that could happen. And of course, as always, when betting an award market, you have to be conscious of people staying healthy. So it's a little bit crazy for me, at least on that. That's the only thing that I really have to say on this, because we said it last week. The Aces and the Liberty are so much better than everyone else. They're so much better than everyone else. It would be, barring injury, a shocker if the final is not Vegas and New York for the second consecutive year. I don't know who the third team is. I have no clue. I know the market says Seattle's the third team now, but that's a new look roster. Getting a Bumake up from LA to Seattle's a big deal. Obviously, Lloyd has always been a big time player, as we know. But this is a very different kind of circumstance here. Unlike last year, where the Liberty, like, yes, they got Breanna Stewart. They already had Sabrina there. They got Vandersloot. They like, okay, yes, clearly they're going to be good. I actually bet their win total under and lost that because they, even with the slow start, they still won 31 games last year. But it'll be fascinating to see over the next few months what transpires. But it's going to be collision course. If it's not Vegas against New York, something has gone wrong, or one team has just popped up out of nowhere, and more likely than not KO'd New York in a best of 5 semifinal, more likely than not, Alex.
And that's why you do have to be careful, because there are some futures out there, and I mean, crazier than the MVP and stuff. The FIFA are like 18-1 to win it all, right?
They don't bet that.
Yeah, they are. That is really crazy. But if you do want to look at Caitlin Clark and over in any sense, I would look at her assist, if anything. And right here at South Point, it is 6.5, minus 110 both ways. But that's the only thing I would look at. I'm not jumping to bet Caitlin Clark in any of these prop bets right now, over or under. Just gonna kind of watch those, but lean to the under in that game overall, because it is a very high total between the Fever and the Sun, sitting there at 167. I believe it moved down to now. I saw 168.5 last night, but it'll be interesting. What do you think about viewership? Do you think it can top the New York Knicks, or at least compete with them?
No, I don't think it will, because it's a playoff game. But I don't think that matters, at least for right now. I think all that matters is that there will be more eyeballs than there's been. And it's an ESPN2, Disney Plus, whatever it is. I guess ESPN Plus technically. The cap with ESPN2 that you can get. But I don't think that matters that much. I think the one you're going to be really looking at is Saturday, where ABC, Indiana goes to New York. Premium market,
Yes.
premium team, also in the Liberty. But that's the one where people and also people watch more TV on Saturdays. People watch more TV on the weekend, at least the Saturday afternoon. That'll be the one that I'm eyeballing. But again, it's a playoff game. If you're comparing that, Alex, setting yourself up.
I was just curious. I was throwing it out there.
Yeah, setting yourself up for, I don't want to say disappointment, because this will, without a doubt, be the highest rated opening night in WNBA history tonight, regardless. Both games, because the Aces are right after it. But see how it all plays out. By the way, for tonight, I don't have any. The only thing I would look at would be those Clark props. You probably have to bet the under team total in the Mercury as well, right? If
Yeah.
you're getting especially if you're getting in the higher 70s. I think 76.5 was the biggest number I saw out there. I think that'd be the way I would look at that. Without Griner, potentially without Cunningham as well.
Yeah.
Deanna Taurasi's still there.
Yes, she is.
I'm amazed she hasn't retired. Year 20 now for Taurasi. So
Is it 20 or 21?
21? You're correct. Yeah, 21. So
So I thought it was.
yeah, Taurasi still going. But
And you
that
know
is
what?
not a good team though, as you pointed out before.
Look out for her, though, because of all of the veterans that we're talking a lot about, Caitlin Clark, she was definitely one of them. So let's see if she still got it and we get one of her better seasons.
All right, that's all we got for you today. Tomorrow we're back. We have Brady Cannon. Brady Cannon's going to join us to preview the PGA Championship. Also, we have a South Point special later in the day today. Barry Phillips, CJ Schmid will get you ready for the PGA as well at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And Punchlines with Frank Nicotero. Frank is going to fight through it at noon. Ryan McCormick will be here as well. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Good work as always, Alex. Drew Dog, and thank you. I'm Jeff Parles. This has been South Point Studio.